Thanks,
And
Bilal.
thanks Jerry as well for joining us and delivering the session.
You're welcome. Thanks everyone for joining in. Let me just share my screen here and let me know if you can see it. Right. All right. So thank you, everyone. Just want to give a big thank you and shout out to the people joining and organizing Pakistan Dreaming today. I know a lot of effort has been put into this event, and you guys took out your Saturday morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're joining from, to join us here today. So thanks a lot for that, and it's a good initiative to take part, and give back to the community. So without further ado, just like to talk to you about today's field trip. So what are we going to discuss today? I know most of you have joined in to basically talk about Pardot, but this session is actually more focused on beginners who are starting off with their Pardot journey. They want to know how do they actually build their first engagement studio, where they start off, and how do they actually get quick started into building a clear vision and clear path for a successful project, right? So you've come to the right place, and I'd just like to walk you through. So we'll give an introduction about what Pardot actually is, right? We'll talk about the basics of what Pardot actually does. We'll also talk about why people use Pardot and why it's so beneficial for our customers. And then the main crux of this presentation is to get you on a clear path of how to actually get started on a mini project. Not a very complex one. I just want to give you a quick disclaimer. It's a very short and easy path that I've come up with to get you quick started and help you deliver a successful mini project. Lastly, we'll talk about how do we use that clear path and vision into Pardot tools so that we can deliver that successfully. And lastly, all of you know we have a Q&A session. I think Bilal will probably distribute or have a raffle, something like that. And I think there is a certification voucher. If Bilal, if you can correct me if I'm wrong. Not sure if Bilal's on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. So I think I have just shared the link, but I think there is some problem with the link. I'll check in and you know uh,
Sure thing.
check the link and yeah.
All right. So, introduction to Pardot, right? So basically, we'll start off about what Pardot actually is, right? So in a world where you have marketing and Salesforce, right? In Salesforce, you have marketing and the sales side, and in most big companies, you have sales in their own silo versus marketing in their own silo. And between those two, there are very rare cases that both speak to each other. You have the analytics team, you have the AI teams, you also have your account-based marketing team. They are all not connected in most companies, and that's where Pardot actually comes in, right? Salesforce has introduced this tool to speak between the two and to ultimately boost up your sales, which basically gains ROI in the long term, right? So I know I've worked with several sales companies. They do have their sales processes, their opportunities, but most of them actually struggle with getting in their leads and prospects so they can actually build up on their opportunity outcome and closed won opportunities. So that's where Pardot actually comes in. Also, what Pardot actually is that it's all in one platform. So even if you sign into Salesforce, you don't have to sign into a third-party app like they used to have before. I know they used to have Pardot before. I've worked with several companies that used to implement Pardot in the past. But now Salesforce has introduced all that in one platform, so you can actually sign into Pardot, have that in Lightning, and enabled everything from the navigation to the analytics and the logins all in one platform. So that's a pretty cool thing going forward for people who want to access Pardot, or customers who actually want to take in Pardot for their own companies. So Pardot is actually a tool that is catered to the marketers. What do I mean by that? So let's just say you have your own marketing team. Like I said before, in your company, you also have your sales team on one side. It is a bridge between the two, and how it allows marketers to help build their leads and their prospect structure is that you can create very streamlined engagement programs. You have automated rules You have triggers that you can basically implement in your journeys. It's called marketing journeys in Pardot, right? You can also easily integrate forms and form handlers that I'll talk about in the future slides. Forms and form handlers basically allow your prospects to get in through your website and then ultimately have you in the inside Salesforce, inside the ecosystem, where you can then expand on them and create more opportunities and ultimately create an account. So that's our basic goal, and this tool actually helps us achieve that, right? And the fun part about it is also you can create fun email templates, right, through your very simplistic Lightning email builder. So you have a very easy tool where you can drag and drop. You can take logic if you want customized logic in your emails. You can do that with the email builder as well. So ultimately, joining all that together performs a very powerful and simplistic process that you can implement for your product implementation. So most of people who I work with, customers, I get this question a lot. So why are we using Pardot? I know it's a tool for engagement. For you can build several engagement studios, your journeys, but how is it actually beneficial for the customers? What is the end goal, right? So the most important thing out here is your leads, right? So how do we handle leads and how do we nurture them? It is a tool where you can actually nurture your leads in a better way, right? So you can capture valuable lead information, like I said, through your smart forms, your landing pages that you can build. You can build dynamic content, right? So as a lead comes in, or as a prospect, as you say in Pardot, comes in, you can build dynamic content to actually market individually for them. And by dynamic content, I basically mean if you have two different audiences, you can actually divert each audience to each marketing campaign and market them separately. So let's just say customer A is interested in A, but customer B is interested in B, right? So you don't want the B customer, getting marketed the A product when they're actually interested in the B product. So those are some things that you can do in Pardot as well. And then you actually have your engagement studio. So as you can see here, this picture, it's a screenshot of what the engagement studio looks like. You can build you can build really complex journeys, or you can build simple journeys that you can get quick started on, which I'm going to talk about. And besides that, you can also integrate that across Salesforce. You can have your Salesforce engage alerts. You can have your B2B marketing analytics and all that fun stuff. So what does it mean to have a lead to account mapping, right? So as I said, the ultimate goal or the ultimate finish line that you want to achieve with Pardot is having an account. You want to have it and opportunities, new opportunities or existing opportunities to expand on that, and ultimately have you expand your ROI, right? So what companies, you know, they think about the most is how do I increase my business sales in 5 to 10 years to come, and how do I get more revenue and income into the business by marketing more to prospects and leads all over the website, right? So when they come in through a channel, they get into Salesforce, ultimately converting into an account, an opportunity, and contact, right? So you're joining the sales with the marketing and ultimately increasing your ROI in the process. So this is another reason why we're actually using it. So I know we talked about the complex part about building your ROI, getting sales in, getting prospects in, and converting them. But really, I just really want to focus on how does someone get quick started on a very, very simplistic project so that they can deliver to a customer or a client, right? um, what are the things that you have to look for while in that process, in that journey? What are the different steps involved in completing that entire project, right? So I get these questions a lot from from customers and people who I worked with in the past. I've obviously done several projects in the marketing of Pardot and implementation as well. So basically what I've done is, in front of you, you can see 5 simple steps. And all it is, it's just 5 simple steps that I've come up with that you can get you quick started and ultimately deliver the outcome that you need. So step one, you want to find out your target audience, right? And that may be through a website, your portals, your forms, etc. What I mean by that is when a customer comes to you and says, okay, so let's just say, Jerry, I want to market to different types of prospects, and I want to get those prospects in Salesforce, but I have no idea where to actually start, right? So your first job is to actually have a discovery on who are your audiences that you're marketing to. It may be audiences from let's just say the financial industry. You can have your brokers. You can have people who are interested in who are buying an insurance, right? So those are two different parties. So ultimately you want to grab your audience, and number two, which I'm coming number two, is actually building a platform for them to come through, right? So once you segregate your audience, you basically build a platform which is from your website. You can build form handlers, or you can build forms, either or. Some customers, they really are interested in the form handler part of it. If you don't know what a form handler is, it's basically a code that you paste at the back of your website, so it actually doesn't change the look and feel of the website. It basically just has the same design, but at the back end, it has a different endpoint, which basically brings the prospect through the same form and into Salesforce. Some customers might say, I don't have a form at the moment, but maybe you can build a form. So Pardot actually does that as well. You can build a form from scratch with the fields, and you can have that integrated and embedded on the websites that your customer actually wants to market from, right? What is step three? So, like I said, you want to segregate your audiences, but those segregations have to go somewhere, right? So in Pardot, you have mailing lists and campaigns that you can actually place your mailing lists, right? And your campaigns into Salesforce. You can have you extract all the different types of audiences that you need, and have them placed in separate campaigns, which you would later market to in step five. But for step four, you basically want a medium to let your customers know that you are marketing to them, right? So you have now your email template builders where you can build fun email templates, right? You can basically build multiple email templates, pictures, drag and drop content like that, and you can actually test that out as well in Pardot when you actually use it. But essentially you want to build something that you market to your customers. And then in step five, what the crux of the entire implementation is, to to add all those components in a journey where you can then say, okay, for marketing list A, I want to send email template A, or for marketing list B, I want to send email template B. So you can have that entire list compiled in a journey, and you can add logic to it. You can add actions. You can add, let's just say, if you want to market to various people at one time, you can add rules based on when you want an email template to be sent, or when you want a break for that email template to be sent later. So these are the 5 steps that I've come up with, and you literally have to just follow these 5 steps to get quick started on the project. So having that vision of those five steps that I've just told you about, what do you do with them in actual Pardot tools, right? So over here you can see, like I said, you find your target audience for step one. So in this example, you can see a customer's website, right? So this is dealing with the financial industry. You have your form over here, and the customer basically says that this is your form, or this is their form that they want to receive prospects from. So you have to look for things that segregate your customers. And over here, as you can see in the red box, it says you are a broker owner, or an agent, or an assistant. So these are kind of indications to say that your customers can belong to the brokers, to the broker owners, or they can be agents, or they can be assistants, right? So on and so forth. These are some, and if indications like this are not obviously given in your form, you can ask the customer to provide those. And usually customers are very cooperative in customizing your forms for you, because obviously you want to market to different audiences. But if there's nothing that exists at the moment, you basically want to ask them to have that input in your form. Number two, so once they do that, right? So you can go from two ways. So one is your Pardot form. Like I said, if the customer does not have a Pardot form or does not have a form in general, you can build that for them. You can add their specific fields, and as you can see in the previous example, you can create that entire thing in Pardot through your form. You have the option to actually embed custom CSS, so you can get that look and feel that the customer wants. And step two, let's just say if your customer already has a Pardot form, or just a normal form in general, what you want to do is place that endpoint URL at the back. So that is done through form handlers in on your website. So what that does is basically builds a bridge from your website to your Salesforce instance, and basically lands in your Pardot prospect area. So when people enter your form, it basically, and after submission, it basically sends that prospect to the Salesforce instance, and from then onward, it drives that entire process to specific lists, campaigns, and then ultimately your journey. So as I was talking about the segregation part, right? So this is what it looks like in Pardot. Um, you have two options. Number one, you have dynamic rules, dynamic lists, and static lists. Right now, this is an example of a dynamic list. It's the best example for this case. So let's just say people who are belonging to brokers, or people who are belonging to, let's just say, people who want to buy insurance. You can create different dynamic lists for them so that it automatically gets sucked into that list, and you have an entire list of only brokers or people who are interested in buying insurance, and you can easily do that through rules over here. The second thing that you also want to do is, I know a lot of marketing firms want to build campaigns. So as long as you're building your lists, you also want to build your campaigns along with that. So you have that entire history of people who have visited that campaign and interacted with it. As you can see here, you have your visitors option here. You can see the amount of visitors and prospects who have entered that campaign. And further down the line, you can expand on this maybe through B2B analytics, right? So you can have multiple dashboards and reports that are taking in this information and displaying that on your front end so people can make use of them. Step four, building an email template. So this is the new email template builder for Lightning that Salesforce is introduced. So basically now you can put, it's a whole new environment. It's more robust than the previous one. You can add your pictures easily, your text, and easily customize the layout. So previously it was kind of hard to customize the layout of maybe for a responsive form. It was kind of a little different from this one, I would say. Not very hard, but a little different in terms of looks and feel. But now they have a new one, and you can go ahead and check that out. You also have your logical language. So basically, if you want to customize the email template from the email template builder itself, you can add in merge fields to personalize the email message. So customers usually like that. They like seeing the names of the contacts pop up on the email templates itself, and have custom information from Salesforce populating in that email template. So these are some things that you can do itself from the email templates. Step five. So ultimately, talking about the email templates, the campaigns, lists, and whatnot, you basically want to boil that down to your journeys, right? So as you can see on my screen, and I've actually talked about this before, it's a place where you can add different logic across the border. So as you can see on my screen, I'm not sure if it's that visible, but you can see if you've added a couple of email templates here, you've added some rules and logic. You can even add actions. So you can see add to list over here, right at the right-hand bottom corner. You can even notify people through an action. So let's just say if you want to notify the marketing team, if a new person is added to a list, they want to quickly go to that list and start calling up their leads to maybe market to them on the phone, or Let's just say you want to notify your senior marketing execs that people have actually come through this journey and are landing on the page. So the obviously the way to do that is to add notifications or different rules to depict that information. Now, step 6. I know I didn't add that in the steps that I've laid out, but ultimately, what you want to make of all the information coming through, right? So you have marketing analytics in Salesforce, and part actually includes a B2B marketing side. You can include that with your uh, your dashboard implementations. But the best part about this is it comes with obviously separate licenses, and you can check that out. But ultimately, what you want to do with this is actually have a plug and play kind of environment. So you don't want to spend time building these dashboards to see that information. It's a very easy plug and play stream where you can just install it, get the licenses, add the permissions, and you can have that analytics tab pop up where you can see various dashboards over here. As you can see, you have a multi-touch attribution dashboard up and ready for you. You can have your pipeline dashboard to see potential accounts that are going to be opening up an opportunity from those leads that you've brought into Pardot. You also have your engagement dashboard where people have actually engaged with your forms or your emails who have opened up. You want to see that information in Salesforce through these analytics. And lastly, if you have a marketing team that actually wants to see an entire view, they don't want to know about the KPIs, what are involved, you can have that up and ready. Now, this doesn't mean that it's obviously fixed. You can go ahead and tweak that information in Salesforce across the border, but it is very customizable as well. So, just to recap, I hope you learned about the process and the story of actually getting a prospect and converting that into AUM or your opportunity or your revenue from an actual form or a lead to begin with, right, on your website. And hopefully you understand a clear path to your successful project. And, a lot of people get really flustered with the entire process. They basically think about how are they actually going to get the entire picture together. So I would advise not to focus on uh, all the requirements that a customer might need. I would literally ask you to focus on the very simplistic end goal that the customer wants to achieve. Maybe they want to achieve just seeing something on a dashboard where you can basically see your ROI increase or your opportunities increase in the long term, right? So to get to that point, I would advise you to focus on these 5 or 6 steps that I've shown you here today. And I hope you guys have learned something from the session. I want you to have some takeaways from the session as well, obviously. And happy learning, everyone. So Bilal, that is the end of the presentation. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions or who have already posted on the chat.
So I do not see any questions. If anyone has questions, you can go ahead and post it in chat as well as Q&A. So yeah.
Also, a very, very big thank you for the people who have turned up in the session once again. Bilal and I are very thankful for people patronizing this event. Pakistan Dreaming is happening. It's a real thing, as you can see, and different rooms or booths that you can join in and learn from. So hopefully, all of you guys are learning from these sessions that we're putting up.
Let's just wait for 2 to 3 minutes for any questions, and then we can have this raffle winner.
I
And
think Asim has a question. So he says, what advice would you give to a customer before you implement Pardot? So Asim, that's a very, very good question. Mostly people who are starting out their implementation in Pardot, they have questions in mind like, how would I benefit from this from the long term? How do I market to separate? And I'm actually talking from my own experience. Other people might have their own set of advice, right? But from my experience, customers have actually asked the long term. So what am I actually going to get from implementing Pardot and buying their licenses? So from my experience, is basically you are going to increase your ROI. That's a given, right? I would say, you could basically tell them that you can market to various people in a very easy fashion, right? So number one, ROI. You will increase your ROI, so customers would actually get intrigued with what Pardot is actually capable of doing. Number three, what you can do is, I know I skipped number two, but number two is basically you can market to separate audiences in a very simple fashion. It's a very easy to learn steps from the environment itself. And number three is basically, in the long term, what you want to do is get your analytics. So um, I know Salesforce also includes the B2B marketing analytics side, and you want to have a proper view of what's happening from prospect to AUM, right? So you want to see your engagement alerts. You want to see people who are um, basically involving themselves in your, let's just say, your newsletters that you posted online. You want to see how many people are clicking on different things. So the third advice I would give is telling your customer that you can have amazing analytics and very descriptive analytics from this tool. I hope that answers your question, Asim. Thanks for that. So if there's any more questions, I think we have some time. So I think Asim has another question. What are your top tips for dealing with non-technical clients? The only tip I would really give is really dumb it down for the client, right? What does that mean? Most of us, and this doesn't really have to do with Pardot, this has to do with any Salesforce implementation. When you get a client that is non-technical, obviously the first thing is to do have a discovery with them. And usually in the first two discoveries, you kind of get an idea of if they are actual technical people that you are working with, or if they are from a non-technical perspective or background. So what you want to do is not to overload them with information with technical terms. I would say explain what that actually means in terms of business. So, for example, if a customer basically um, wants to implement 2 or 3 forms, right, on their website, the first thing I would do is not basically focus on telling them the technical part of it. So the technical part of it would be, okay, so number one, we have to implement form handlers, we have to implement forms. They will be like, what the hell is a form and how do I build it, right? I mean, not what's a form, because everyone knows what a form is, but they basically don't really know how. Most of them from the business background don't actually know the technicalities of building a form. So I would say start off with very simplistic explanations of how you would get people or leads from your forms to your ultimate goal, which is obviously increasing your opportunities and ROI. So explain that entire process in business terms. That's what I would say. Any more questions? Thanks, Asim, for the questions. Really, really good questions from you.